This is Lady Anne, owner of KPNL Radio and hostess of the Caravan Library of Lore, and I support Tessa. As an experiencer myself, I have filed my own reports with them, and the professionalism and heart they have shown my case goes above and beyond. If you have had experience, I cannot recommend Tessa enough.
Hi, this is Ernie Hudson, Winston Zedmore from Ghostbusters. I want to let you know that Ryan Stacy, he's created the Experiencer Support Association, TESA. You can check them out at www.tesacan.org. Now, they investigate paranormal, UFO, and provide support to experiencers. But you can check them out at, like I said, www.tesacan.org and see for yourself if they're really Ghostbusters. I can tell you this, they are a non-profit organization. Good luck, have fun, and keep it blessed.
Good evening. You are listening to Beyond the Tinfoil Hat, a podcast by the Experiencer Support Association. Tessa is a UFO, paranormal, and paracryptid investigation association. We investigate everything belonging to the global phenomenon linked to highly strange and unexplained experiences. We also connect experiencers with other experiencers, creating a safe, positive environment to engage and discuss this phenomenon without judgment, criticism, or retribution. From the land of the white rolling sands, on the southeasterly tip of Georgian Bay, to all of you listening around the world, as we simulcast live on KPNL Radio, we salute you. If you want to go back and listen to our previous episodes, go to youtube.com/the Experiencer Support Association. Do us a favor and hit that subscribe button and ring that bell to be instantly notified when we are live, not only for these episodes, but every single element Tessa has to offer. On our website, tessacan.org, we have something for everyone. We have support for experiencers, data for independent researchers, and places to advertise for professional partners. This live portion of the show will run for about 45 minutes. We'll have a commercial break and then spend some time answering some of your questions in the comments. The show will continue immediately after on Patreon for our private members, so head over and become a member for the unclassified tier and receive additional content from this episode and so much more for only $7 a month. To all our Patreon members, you are awesome, and thank you for helping us heal the world. All proceeds go back into the mission and will continue to help us create educational content for you and your family. Become a member today by going to patreon.com/the Experiencer Support Association. Also, if you're joining us live on Facebook or Twitter, head over to our youtube.com/the Experiencer Support Association if you want comments read out in the chat. We're only answering questions on YouTube, so head on over, hit that subscribe button, and start chatting. If you can't stay for the entire show, don't worry. Every Monday, we will upload the audio file to our podcast network for you to take us on the go. Okay, you ready? Let's get started. Hello, today is Thursday, March 4th, 2021, and I, Ryan Stacy, am your host this evening. Our guest for Season 3, Episode 6 is James Tyson. James has often described his dream state as a full-length motion picture that he could continue from night to night. You could escape nightmares from within the dream and control the outcomes. It had been his opinion that everyone could do this. From his time as a junior constable to a senior investigator of organized crime, James has had experiences he could not explain with
with both the freshly dead to those long ago past. When interviewing a suspect at length, he found he connected deeply with the individual's life. He could place himself in the position of the suspect in his or her life where the decision was made to commit the offense. In the fall of 2012, James was identified as an empath by a psychic medium. In a study of empaths, he found the answers to his connections with clientele victims and offenders over the years. This helped him to put into perspective and understand the dreams, images, and other spiritual experiences that he had experienced as a child and later as a police officer. As a paranormal investigator, he was thinking he was the skeptic who would interview clients to assess their concerns. But after his second investigation, where he had a unique experience of having a conversation with a disembodied woman, well, he could no longer be skeptical. James now finds himself on a mission to identify other empaths in his hope that the understanding of themselves will open their minds to their potential. His proven methodology, can't say that word, has helped numerous people discover themselves as James himself becomes more in tune with his spirit. He was interviewed and utilized internationally known psychics to confirm his and his audience's experiences, along with starting his podcast, which is Oracles with James Tyson, his website, Traveling for Answers to All Those Things Paranormal. James is researching his first book about his life as an empath, police officer, and intuitive. James presently hosts a series of paranormal documentaries. He frequently travels throughout North America, attending paranormal conferences, both to interview attendees as well as speak at events. Woo! Well, James, put on your tinfoil hat or go down a rabbit hole. How are you doing today?
I am doing well. How are you? Boucher, I think I've said it right. Boucher, which sure. Is Ojibwe for hello.
Hello, Ojibwe. That's great.
And you are in that Ojibwe area if you're in Georgian Bay. So
that's correct. That is correct. I'm Métis, not Ojibwe. So.
Oh, Tunse.
But yeah, okay.
Tunse, Schmuggins, Tyson. Sorry, it's I bastardized Cree quite badly, but
it's okay. I don't know anything about it. I shouldn't have said that because I'm.
Well, no. Well, I'll tell you something. Tunse is hello.
Hello. Oh, thanks.
Schmuggins is kind of policeman, and Kiwe Gosamo means go home, go to sleep.
Okay. Well, so, I will do that.
Things you need to know.
Things you need to know, especially if you're going to self-identify as something. You should.
Yeah. You know. Well, you're Métis, so just you can either do Cree or Scottish, French, whatever your other side is.
Irish. Sorry, pal.
There you go. Oh, the psychic side. And the First Nation side. Yeah, you're glow in the dark, man. That's a psychic combination.
That's what they say. Diving right into that. Let's elaborate on that. How does that make sense? What does that mean?
Well, the way it was explained to me once, and over since 2014-ish, when I've been doing the podcast that I've been doing and interviewing, like I started off on the podcast doing, interviewing paranormal investigators, and then I got into the ufology and Bigfoot, and I kind of branched off into psychics, and I went through that TV series, Psychic Detective, that used to be on, and I got a hold of every one of those psychics that were still living and called them up and said, hey, I want to talk to you about you working for the FBI or working for whatever local police force and finding people and how that all worked. And I found when I was talking to people who are, and like we talk about empath, that's a label it's really bastardized and thrown around on a number of different things, but it kind of connects it to people who are quote unquote higher vibration. Now, higher vibration doesn't mean better than somebody else. It's just that there's a wonky adjustment in tuning of somebody's energy. And that's just the way it is. When you die, if you're a extremely high empath, like high vibration person, and you die, it's all low again. And you're really low. You're lower than living people. There are living people who are relatively low too. And then there are people who are intuitive so that intuition is cranked up. So we call it the higher vibration. Now, people I have talked to and people who I've bumped into with that higher vibration, if you are Caucasian, your ancestry with the kind of higher vibration side is going to most likely be Welsh, Irish, Scottish, Scandinavian, with a dip into like the Black Forest of Germany. Then the inside of the boot of Italy, coming up through France, coast of France, Spain, and then over into Morocco. Again, there are going to be smatterings over through the former Yugoslavia, that area too. And if you were to go back 200 or 300 years, that is your ancestry. If you're Caucasian, if you are First Nations, you only have to go back about 150 years to find that you are a higher vibration. And so indigenous people of North, Central, and South America are going to be a higher vibration. In Caucasians, it's that other area I just mentioned. If you're an indigenous from India, Australia, your vibration is going to be higher. And it kind of goes back where easy way to kind of put it is if you went back 200 or 300 years, they were living with the land and not off of the land. They were still seeing those things in the bush. They were seeing these things, they would call them elves or sprites or fairies, or we would call them cryptids now. You know, I saw this thing, and eventually that gets beat out of you, and the vibrations, you get told to shut that down. For example, I always use this guy as an example. Pan, half goat, half guy, the Greek god of the hillside. So somebody back in Greece saw this thing on the hillside, and it's a god. And Pan's going, yeah, okay, whatever, people. I'm just working on the hillside here. Christianity comes in and says, well, it's a demon. Pan's going, who are you? Like, you guys are the ones throwing labels on me. I'm just a being that exists. And then we can get into whatever, is it multidimensional? What is its purpose? But it's always been seen. We just kept throwing names on it. And eventually people get told those are bad things. You shouldn't see them. You ignore those things. And that gets pushed out of you. And then 200-300 years goes by and it's basically shut off. But again, that area in Europe I was telling you about, and through Scandinavia and that dip into the Black Forest, those people still have it, because you can go back a couple of hundred years, only a couple of hundred years. And those people had those beings as a part of their life. First Nations, of course, we know that from 150, 200 years ago, those beings were a part of the lives of First Nations in what we have here, Turtle Island, North America. We have North, Central, and South America. Those beings still are a big part of that culture. So their vibration hasn't been forced down. So that's what I mean about vibrations and that connection. And if you've got First Nations and Irish, the odds that your vibration is going to be a little bit higher are pretty darn good.
That's interesting, because that's something we've talked many times before, and this as a story, and my cognitive downloads and things like that, and
Yep.
I'm hearing this information explained to me in this way for the first time. So like I just drank the entire bowl of Kool-Aid. That makes sense to me, So that's crazy, man. But thank you for sharing that, and it's great that you started out with a topic that wasn't any of my questions, but it's right on point to what I want to talk about, and that's the psychic stuff. I want to really get into that. So I know you mentioned so in your bio there, did you have any experiences prior to your service as an officer, or did you just start to notice them, or confirm your validations, I guess, as the officer?
Yeah, it's kind of interesting in hindsight. Like, again, this entire thing is in hindsight. And where my aha moment came, or people call it an awakening, was in November of 2011. going through 3 challenges I had with the Royal Canadian Mounted Police, all management related. And I just said, screw this, walking away for a bit, taking a breather. And a friend of mine said, have you ever seen a psychic? And I was like, dude, psychic? Why would I want to go see a psychic? Oh, so-and-so, you should go see this person. So I said, okay, I'll go. So I go see a psychic, not too far from where I live here, just outside of Vancouver, British Columbia. And I sit down, and the psychic looked at me and said, oh, your mother's here. Like, my mother had passed, would be in 1999. And of course, I didn't tell this lady that my mother had passed. And she goes, your mother's here. And she describes my mother standing over my left shoulder. But what was really weird, she described my mother exactly what she looked like in a photograph that I have of her when she was in her mid-20s. And then she said, oh, her name is Lexa. And I went, well, how the because literally she has my phone number and my name is Jim. Like, Google it. You're not going to find my phone number listed anywhere because the whole Mountie thing. And my name, Jim. And she knew my mother's name was Lexa. And again, describes her. And I was like, crap. And then she said, oh, by the way, you're going through these 3 things at work, right? She said, oh, don't worry about it. It's all going to work out. And this is how they're going to work out. And she was reading oracle cards. And she said, and I like friggin', I'm flat-footed at this point going, how do you, what are you, psychic? Anyway, she's reading oracle cards and she says, by the way, you could do this too. And I'm like, I call BS on it, but she just nailed a few things. She also nailed, and this is getting back to stuff that I saw when I was a kid. When I was probably 10, 11, like that semi-pre-puberty thing or getting into puberty, I remember waking up at night and seeing a shadow standing at the foot of my bed. And I'm looking at it thinking, okay, what is this? So you do your tough guy thing and you cover your head in the blanket going, crap, still there. Okay. So I'm looking at it and now it's moving across the foot of my bed and then up towards my head. And I'm thinking, oh, it's my sister. She's, when I'm mad, but I'm not really sure. So I stick my hand out when it was right beside my bed. And I don't remember anything else. I just fell right back to sleep. Next day, though, I vividly remember this. I tell my mother what I saw, and she was at the kitchen sink doing something, making lunches or something for school or whatever, and she didn't even look at me. She just said, oh, well, sometimes that happens. I was like, dude, what do you mean sometimes? And I didn't say anything. Mm-hmm. So I remember that incident primarily because of my mom's conversation, or a semi-conversation we had. Now, fast forward to, I was 16 years old. It was April Fool's Day. And my dad had this second kind of beater car. He had a 62 Ford Meteor, 4-door. It was like a friggin' tank. And I'd been out partying with the boys and the girls the night before. And we're just south of Vancouver, British Columbia. There's a town called Steveston. It's a fishing community. And we're going out on a rowboat to the little island we were partying on the night before because I lost my wallet. Or my dad's gas card. So I had to go back. So we got all the guys, and literally the car's full of life jackets and the paddles for the boat and, that kind of thing. And we're driving along, and I get up to an intersection. It's a 4-way stop, and there's 2 cars ahead of me. And so I cut through the parking lot at the 7-Eleven to go down another way. And I'm tooling along, doing about 25 miles an hour in a 20 zone. And come up to an uncontrolled intersection and there's a big hedge on my left-hand side, about 12 feet high. And I don't see a guy coming from my left until I broadside him in the middle of the intersection. And I remember slamming on my brakes, and I'm on a 45-degree angle. And he's spinning me. He was in an Envoy, a 1973 or 74 Envoy, a little small car. Well, that car was wrapped completely around the front of mine. Oh, geez. I get out of my car, and I'm shaken up. But like you say, it's a tank. Yeah. And the other guys in the car, they're bouncing off of life jackets. We didn't have our seatbelts on, but nobody was really hurt. And I get out of the car, look at his car, in a ditch, and I go up to a house on my left, go up the stairs, and because I'm going to go for help. And just as I'm coming, and the stairs are your basic, maybe 6 feet wide, going up into a little landing on the outside of the house. And there's a screen door and a wooden door. And I'm walking up to the screen door, and a lady opens the wooden door on the inside, and I see her look out and out on at the accident and screams. She swings open the screen door, goes running down the stairs, totally ignores me. Lady, like, help me out here. I want to talk to you. And I look back, and I could see myself standing beside my car. And I'm looking at myself thinking, this is really weird, because that's me standing at the car. Yeah. And I'm watching one of the guys in the car, and he's like messing with the engine, because I think the engine was running and the fan belt was going tunk, 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 tunk. And he was like trying to shut the noise off in the car. And I was baffled, and I blinked, and I was back down on the road, and now ambulance and police and fire trucks and everybody's showing up. The driver of the other car was being helped out of the car by the ambulance, or the police and everybody. I was put in the front seat of the ambulance. The back of the ambulance, the driver of the other car went into. One of the girls who was in my car went into it, and off we went to the local hospital. And because I wasn't hurt, I was going for observation and just kind of to hold on to until my parents and everybody showed up, because I was 16. I was sitting there, and I looked out the back, and the nursing staff came over and helped the driver of the other car and his son away. And his son was fine. You know, he's about 6 years old, looking around like, what the heck are we doing here, kind of thing. But dad was really shaken up. So I'm waiting for my parents. Eventually my parents come up. I say, they're wondering, am I okay? And I said, yeah, I'm okay. Is anybody hurt? And they said, well, a little boy died. And I said, well, he looked fine when I saw him. Yeah. And they're staring at me like, really? And I go, yeah, he was just at the hospital with his dad. And they're just like, because later I found out he actually died in the car. Huh. But I described him from head to toe in the hospital with his dad. So fast forward back to the psychic. Without me mentioning that to her, she described that accident, that incident, and she said, that was a ghost. Okay. You saw the boy. And I'm looking at her like, okay, this is freaky. Like, this is like, this is your life kind of thing, where someone has given you my friggin' resume of my life and you're just picking stuff out. She didn't know me from literally I walked in the door. That was it. By the end of that conversation, she had me on a paranormal team. And a couple of weeks later, we're doing an investigation. And things happened from there. And that was in 2011. Huh. Oh, no, as you were, 2012.
So just to dial back, I'm tracking everything that you got going on, but I'm curious about, and I understand how it's all connected. And I guess maybe this is my analytical brain missing the answers to this one, but what's the explanation for you seeing yourself? Is that an out of body?
Yeah, it was an out of body thing. It was explained to me, my subconscious had to go I had to go for help. Yeah. And my body wasn't going fast enough. So my energy went.
Mentally, because of the stress and the trauma, you projected yourself, and you didn't know that, but because of the trauma, it activated the ability. Yeah. And you just come to realize that after. So that's interesting, because like you say you're empath, right? Empathic. That's another thing I wanted to dive into is that's the emotion behind it as well. Are they two separate things, being an empath and being psychic, or are they one and the same, just two different labels?
Yeah, I think they're two separate things. In my understanding, empath is a kind of it deals with vibration and energy and more or less your feelings. Mm-hmm. Higher vibration is the next kind of thing that marries the two together, the empath with somebody with a higher vibration. And then when you get into the higher vibration, think of it as a antenna you're putting up. Some people's antennas are short, some people's antennas are really high. The other thing that is through my interviews with people over the years and conversations is that when you have a higher vibration, you attract low vibration beings, living and dead. And this is the important thing about the higher vibration versus an empath. Not all empaths will attract higher vibration. A lot of empaths will get upset when there's a lower vibration. Like they don't like crowds, and like you can stand in a crowd, and if everybody loves the band, you feel like and everybody else their energy's up. You're 2 feet off the ground yourself. But you leave the concert and there's a fight in the parking lot, and that vibration drops. You go home, and that's all you're going to feel for the rest of the night. Is that, oh, geez, I didn't have a good time. It was just terrible, and it was something. Is more of a feel. Now, when your antenna's up all the time, and this is another whole other challenge, is leaving your antenna up too high and not trying to block that, which is something that can be learned. I still have an issue with it, but empaths, we attract narcissistic people, lower vibration people. Love at first sight, absolutely horrible for an empath or a higher vibration person. Again, melding the two together, because really that would almost be a thesis in itself. Trying to pull two empaths and higher vibration apart, trying to marry them up. It's not black and white, but love at first sight. And I had this happen in my 20s, and I didn't understand it, where I'd like meet somebody on a Monday and fall madly in love, and then Wednesday, I'd look at them and their face had physically changed, and they were just sucking the life out of me. But what that love at first sight was on the Monday was my subconscious saying, "Oh, you can fix her." And they're looking at me going, "Oh, he can fix me." And that's that attraction that we may call them narcissists, especially more of that connection of like somebody wanting to drain them and possess them, and they just keep tapping into their vibration and their energy. That's a living person doing it. The dead will do that too. But again, I told you that when a dead person or the person dies and doesn't cross over, whole other show, when no matter what they were like in life, they're really low, and they love being around that higher vibration. And the more higher your vibration is, the more of them you're going to attract, and they're just going to follow you home.
How do you balance that?
You have to block it. Well, you have to literally meditate, build yourself a bubble. You're not permitted. When you were a little kid and you saw shadows in your bedroom and you said, "Leave me alone," if they were adult ghosts, dead people who haven't crossed over, they will leave you alone. If children, they won't, which is a pain in the ass.
So no, I agree with you 100%. Actually, a couple, our last Experiencers Anonymous group, one of the questions that had come up from one of our anonymous experiencers was how do you set boundaries for yourself when these things are happening? We were trying to find some answers and things like that too, and we've done the best that we could to give some info. But by what you're saying, it sounds like you might have some suggestions. So if they're listening right now, what would be the best way for someone to create a boundary in the moment when the attack is happening, or whatever you want to call it, when they need to vibrate higher, I guess?
Yeah. First thing you have to realize that a living person is stronger than a dead person.
You would think.
Yeah. And you don't give that up.
Yeah.
Like they're low, you're higher vibration. What I do, if I want to actually sleep through that 3:30 in the morning or 3 till 4:30 in the morning, when they kind of all day long, they're tapping me on the shoulder saying, hey, James, hey, James, hey, James. And then that time of the morning, it's like, hey, James, you wake up going, oh, crap, shadow in my room. So what I do, and it comes a lot quicker. I imagine myself, I'll take 3 deep breaths, like any kind of meditation. Start with 3 deep breaths, relax. Take a deep breath, imagining literally bright white, as white and strong and powerful as it possibly can be, light, love and light coming from the universe, right through the top of your head, into your stomach. As you inhale, it goes clockwise in your stomach. And then as you exhale, think of it forming a little brick. Do that about 4 times. And then on about the 5th one, when you inhale, then imagine you shooting that out your butt chakra, right to the center of the earth, grabbing a hold, like a hand grabbing this bright golden healing grounding light from the center of the earth, and inhaling it coming up, and again hitting your tummy chakra, spinning that around, doing that a few times, and then the next time, poof, blow that out, and this energy around you, and blow all the stresses of the day out. And then your intention is, every time I take a deep breath tonight while I'm sleeping, I am taking in love and light from the universe, grounding healing light from the center of the earth into me, and as I exhale, I blow it out into a bubble. And then I fill my room up with this bubble. Your next intent is, the only things that are allowed in this bubble are my guides, my angels, and those who come for my highest good. All others have to stay out. Done. Problem is, well, not a problem. Children, dead, the ghosts of children will come through because they exist in love and light. I'm up the I-5 from one of the most wonderful cities on the west coast of the United States, Portland, Oregon. I'm down there a lot. The McMinimans the family have bought all these old buildings and turned them into really cool pubs and open them up, and they're haunted as heck. I also go to the Oregon Ghost Conference every year. Rocky Smith and everybody down there, and have a great time. And I stay in a place called the Old Wheeler Inn in Wheeler, Oregon, right on the coast. And I built the bubble because it's haunted as heck. I go in there, and Kate runs this place, and it's absolutely beautiful. If you're in Oregon, you're on the coast, the Wheeler Inn for a good a night of paranormal. Anyway, really cool old hotel. It used to be a doctor's office, little place. So if you lived in a rural area, your kids would come out there and they'd stay overnight, if they were sick or whatever. And obviously some people have passed away in the building. So I get up to go to the bathroom in the middle of the night, and I built the bubble, get back in, boom, get all, snuggle on the pillow, turn off the light, and I hear a little kid say, "Daddy?" And it's like, okay, no, you got to leave. But the kids will come through. And the same thing happened to me in the San Jose house. Another thing, if you're in Tombstone, Arizona, the San Jose house is one of the first, I think the first, it was kind of like a rooming house. There's like 4 little apartments in this thing, and it still exists from the 1800s, and it's a block away from downtown Tombstone. I did the same thing, built the bubble because I know the place was haunted as heck. And it's a narrow little bed, and my right hand goes over the bed, and these 2 fingers get grabbed, and I get pulled again around 3:30 in the morning. And whatever pulled it went under the bed going whoomp, whoomp, whoomp. And I am pooping myself at this point because it's like, and I'm mad because I built the bubble. I have nobody's allowed in. So get back to sleep. The next day, I phone a psychic friend of mine up who's in Southern Washington State. And I don't even have to ask. I said, "Hey, Skeeter, last night," she goes, "Yeah, it was a little boy. He just wanted you to know you were in his spot." I was like, "But I built the bubble." And she laughed and said, "Oh, you remember about in the Wheeler Hotel?" Yeah. Bubbles don't work for kids. But they will keep the adults out because there are rules on the other side. I did have one guy break a rule, June 26, 2019, in the Queen Mary. It was a hot day, and sleeping with the portal open. and not the portal, but the porthole. And so I'm asleep and I've got like one sheet on top of me, and I wake up and now it's freezing cold, absolutely freezing cold, 3:30, 3:45 in the morning. And it is chilly. Didn't even think of it. Typical Canadian. Oh, it's just cold. So get up, shut the porthole, get back in, pull the sheet up, take a deep breath. All the sheets get grabbed and thrown onto the floor. And I'm pissed off now. This is upsetting because it's no. You can't do this because I built a bubble. So I start an EVP session with my fancy Zoom recorder because I had all my paranormal gear with me.
Yeah, a good one.
Yeah, so I set up my stuff and I said, look, are you trying to get my attention? Yes. Will you, if you let me sleep tonight and tomorrow night, I promise I will come back and I'll give you a hand. Is that what you want? Yes. So I end up coming back home to British Columbia here. I get a hold of Skeeter Wellhouse, the psychic who's out of Maple Valley, Washington. And what she and I do, she will remote view someplace. So if you're in Boston in a place that's haunted, we just did one in LA. We'll touch on the one in LA. She'll get on the phone with you and I or whoever else. She'll take literally a deep breath, doesn't know anything about your place, and show up in your place and start describing what's on the walls and where your furniture is and all this. And she'll start describing the dead people in the house, if there are any, or confirm they're not. So I said, look, this is what happened to me on the Queen Mary. To take a deep breath. And she goes, oh, I didn't even have to. He's here. His name is William, but he goes by Billy. He died sometime in the late 30s, early 1940s on the ship. I said, great, because we can look that stuff up. There's a list of all the people who died. And I said, what does he want? He wants to go home. And he knows that you know me. That's why he was so adamant to come through, because we will cross him over. And we can get into crossing people over and not crossing people over and paranormal teams screwing stuff up and all that stuff. So anyway, I've got one of my podcasts is actually us crossing him over, which was really cool. So he wanted to go back to England. And the thing is, though, because he died between 1938 and 1945, we cannot find his record of death on the ship, because that was when the Queen Mary was commandeered or basically running under the British Admiralty in the Second World War as a troop carrier. So all those records are sealed. So, but we knew his name was William, and all he wanted to do was go back home and be with his girlfriend. So we crossed him over. So
a whole bunch of questions coming to my mind at the time, like 5 minutes here before we go to commercial break. But I just want to kind of do some context here, I guess, for this question, because you are an analytical mind, you're a retired RCMP officer, and now you are comfortable in your natural skin, I guess, as an empath, and you have worked with people that are psychic as well, and you've seen paranormal events and psychic events, and you've seen in your own mind things that you would confidently explain as being truth. And with you, how you know how I am and how we work and how Tessa is, I guess a loaded question here would be like, how would you, if you were in my shoes, be able to provide evidence that all that stuff is happening? Because there's a lot of confidence and there's a lot of belief, and that's there because you're an experiencer, you've seen it, you've witnessed, and there's nothing anybody could say to take that away from you. But with your policing background, how do you prove that?
I don't.
Right.
And one of the big things when I first started on the paranormal team back in it was 2012, I guess. 2011. I can't remember. When I first started, I wanted to get some evidence, like those TV shows. So you go out, you set all your gear up, and you want to get a picture. Well, the guy I was with was a bit of a ghost magnet. He set a camera up, and pretty well every investigation we're on, I know my first investigation, we had this, he had a picture of a guy pushing a little hand truck from what was the office in the restaurant out of this old office and right through him. At the same time he was doing that, I asked a woman, I was in another part of the restaurant, another dining room, and I said, I understand that sometimes there's a woman here. Can you tell me why you're here? And clear as a bell, I hear, I can't let go. It's like, okay, so much for getting evidence of ghosts.
Mm-hmm.
But what I found was, I had the conundrum is, well, I've seen ghosts growing up. And later I actually ended up bringing one home with me from an investigation, which was a pain in the ass. The understanding and the realization that these ghosts do exist wasn't hard for my brain to get over. But once I got it, what really upset me was other people saying, prove it to me.
Right.
And I'd say, well, I got a picture of it. Nope. That could, you monkeyed with that. That was photoshopped and blah, blah, blah. And I'm looking at them going, well, have you ever actually tried to go out and do this yourself? No, but you prove it to me. And I just kind of was like,
yeah, but you don't
know.
You don't have to prove it. And
I don't have to prove it. So even when I interview people on paranormal teams or on my podcast, and we're talking about ghosts, I come in that with the mindset is, yeah, there are ghosts. They do exist. Now, what are you going to do about them? So that's the important thing for me is, how did you treat the dead person? Have you tried to get it out of the building? My biggest pet peeve is an example. I was in Gettysburg, Pennsylvania. We were at a house in the 1700s, downtown Gettysburg, where a woman was murdered back in the 80s by her boyfriend. And she's in the kitchen and talking back and forth to her there with a couple of tourists, because literally you pay, you go, and they'll take you to a haunted house. So I did it. Went on a ghost tour. So at the end of it, they said, well, how was it? Let's go over the evidence. And I put my hand up, being me. I said, so have you ever tried to cross the ghost over? And of course, all the other tourists are going, yeah, cross the ghost over. And the two of them were kind of like, no. Well, it's like, well, why not? Because that's how we get money.
Oh, yeah.
So we charge you to come here to go poke fun at the dead person who is trapped in this house, where I really have a hard time with that.
Yeah.
And Skeeter and I, Skeeter can cross people over. Gregory Postman, who does this, he and his wife were both psychics. They cleared out a castle in Scotland while they were still in the United States, because the people there said, yeah, our castles, I think, is haunted. You come check it out, because I don't have to go there personally. We'll just do it over the phone kind of thing. Yeah. And did a remote view, said, yeah, there's X amount of dead people still wandering around. They'd like to leave. And so he crossed them over. And that's a whole process in doing that. But it should be done more often. And like, there's dead people are everywhere, absolutely everywhere. It's just that some places you see them more.
So if you had to prove it, because again, you said you don't have to prove anything to anyone, because you've seen it, you've witnessed it, you have your own path, you have your own journey. There's nothing in your life right now that indicates that you need to prove anything, because you're doing quite well with your circle and everything else that you're encountering. But hypothetically speaking, if you needed to prove it, or you wanted to prove it for my sake, in terms of trying to understand the phenomenon, how could it be proven?
If I had to prove it to an individual,
yeah.
I would have to take the individual with me.
Well, then sign me up, because
that's the only way you can do it, because I can get audio, or I can get video, or I can get a photograph, but you will argue, the person will argue all three of those have been modified. Well, so you've got to actually grab the person, get their ass there. And that's the difference between a skeptic and a cynic.
Mm-hmm.
Most people who call themselves skeptics are actually cynical.
When we get EVPs or anything like that too, like our Tessa's, to not fall into that trap of denying the evidence, what we try to do is just confirm that the evidence is evidence of something. We don't interpret it. We're looking for a team of experts and things like that that could weigh in on, this category of paranormal evidence and then put, labels to it after the fact. Because like we could easily say I wasn't there, or it could be a sound from somebody else in the crew, and then the other person says no, nobody was in the room, and then you have that belief. Do I trust this person? Can I trust what he's saying? There's testimony evidence. There's all these other things.
Yeah.
So people want so much. They want that stronger evidence, but in collaboration, we gotta hit the commercial. But I'm basically thinking to myself that I need someone like you. I need someone like Skeeter as well as part of our team, in the sense to show and prove and give me something that I can. I guess I could try to quantify the best I could do, so that way I can assist the paranormal side a little bit easier. Because right now all I've been doing is just saying, yeah, that's definitely an audio. That's definitely a video of something. It could be a ghost, but I don't know. And that's because it could be because I've never had that experience to say it. But even if I had the experience, how could you know? So again, like you said, the best thing is good for the person to be there. But if I was there in that room and I witnessed something in that moment, how am I able to take that moment and apply that to another investigation without assuming that that's the same thing, because the evidence, all the variables are different?
Go to your break, and we'll talk about that when you get back.
All right. All right. So we'll pause right there, but we'll continue after a message from our professional partners. Also, if you're listening to this live on KPNL Radio, where is my thing? There it is. KPNL Radio, or on a future podcast, head over to youtube.com/Experiencer Support Association to see the videos that go with the audio. Remember, you're listening to Beyond the Tinfoil Hat, a podcast by the Experiencer Support Association, and we will be right back.
Ryan is one of Canada's leading new UFO investigators. He conducts and oversees UFO investigations on a constant basis, and was really taken by his research. He's compiled a tremendous amount of data regarding UFOs in Canada. And just as interesting, he really goes over how UFO investigations are done and what are some of the mistakes that people make when they submit evidence. Note for starters, don't edit your videos or photos before you send them. If you want to hear more follow-up conversation between Ryan and myself, you can go to richardolanmembers.com, where we have a candid conversation on ufology, the paranormal, and more. And remember, while we learn and grow and search for the truth, let's be good to each other.
The same thing that draws aliens to our planet is the same thing that draws us to others. Exploration, curiosity, sustainability of life. That's why we go. It would make sense as to why they're visiting here.
Travis! Quit playing around, man. Get back here. Travis!
The last thing I remember was this numbing shock. Stunning sort of a feeling. Very powerful.
Get away from me!
I was just out of my mind with fear, just screaming the whole time.
It's been theorized that aliens prefer remote areas because they don't want to attract attention. Whatever it is that they're doing, they would want to do that in a less populated area. There are multiple accounts of the same thing from people from all over the world. People that do not know each other, do not live in the same cultures, and they're all looking up, they're all seeing things in the sky. So it would be naive of us to think that we're alone in the universe.
My mission
is to assist and help those experiencing this phenomenon in such a way that they're able to continue and live with it, and also in a way that it can be measured, quantified, and reinforced within today's society, so that way it can be accepted and no longer viewed in a negative way. One thing that I do value in people is the ability to sense and feel when something is right and when something is wrong. That is a natural ability that we all share. Now, when we combine that with the paranormal and ufological abductions or visits, I have this sensation that these abilities are connected. Not everyone can sense, not everyone can feel. However, those who can are typically connected with something that we cannot explain. And part of my research is not just to investigate the experience, but it's also to understand and study the experiencer to find out what they have in common with other experiencers, to try to figure out what the actual makeup is in order to be on that spectrum. There's a lot of it happening all over the world, and I do not know of any other study that is focusing on the individuals as people, only the phenomenon.
Welcome back. You are listening to Beyond the Tinfoil Hat. If you're enjoying this episode so far, head over to patreon.com/The Experiencer Support Association and join the unclassified tier for only a couple bucks a month. Your membership will get you at least an extra half hour of this conversation, along with a bunch of other perks for becoming an insider. Also, if you have experienced an unexplained event involving the paranormal, extraterrestrials, dogman, or any other paracryptid, head over to tessacan.org/reporting system. The more reports we get, and the more we will understand this phenomenon and how it affects our people. With the others who have already reported, be that example that proves you are making a difference. And if it wasn't for these reports, we would not be able to do what we do, and for that, we thank you. I am still here with our guest, James Tyson, and it's time to dive into the comments, but I want the answer to that question.
John F. Kennedy. No, hold on. That was Trivial Pursuit. Oh, I heard you had Richard Dolan talking there. I got my Richard Dolan mug.
Nice. Noticed that. Right on.
Yeah. What was that long drawn out question?
Thanks.
What's that?
Long drawn out question. I understand. I talk a lot.
No. I'm trying to delve down into it. Proving something to somebody else.
If you had to, like life or death, like this.
Life or death. I've got to grab. I have to take the person along, because in my experience, that is about the only way some of these people are going to do it. They will not listen to a third party. They will demand information from a third party.
Then you take that third party there. That third party witnesses it, comes back and tells that people that they saw what they saw.
Oh, no. The person who wants to know has it proven to them. Yeah. They're the only ones who are going to have to do it.
So how do we prove it to the world that
who cares?
The phenomenon exists? What'd you say?
Don't care. Here's that was a very quick little way of putting it, but I've had the opportunity to talk to a couple of guys who have the same attitude. Travis Walton and Bob Lazar. When it comes to UFOs, this is my story. Don't care if you don't believe me. If you remember a Larry King interview with Travis Walton and I can't remember the name of the other fella, the Experiencer from 1975's when Travis was picked up. In 1993, Larry King had them on with a guy named Philip Klass. Yeah. Philip Klass was later found out he was actually paid by the CIA to go and to try to get them to change their stories and everything, and basically cover this crap up. If you watch that interview, and you'll probably find it on YouTube, at one point, Travis looks like he's about to come over the table at him. That is Travis Walton. That is when you talk to Travis Walton was out working in the lumber industry in 1975. He retired from the lumber industry. This guy, ran a lumber mill. He's just a guy. I met him at a UFO, the UFO Congress in Phoenix. We were going to have an interview, and he said, I can't. I got to go change the alternator on my truck, or I can't get my grandkid home on time. I said, yeah, okay. So he's out there changing the alternator on the truck. That's Travis. He doesn't care. He's not he wasn't into it for the money at the front end of it. He's not into the money at the back end of it.
But see,
he shares his story, but he doesn't have to prove it to somebody.
Nobody does. Nobody does. And that was kind of a point I was leading up to, is we will never be able to prove 100 definitively for the rest of the world. But all we need though, is that one person to say that one experience and have everyone believe in them. So if you believe the person from an analytical point of view, then you can make a decision on it, like reasonable grounds. If you are investigating some sort of a case and you got to get opinions and you have all this evidence, but you got to make a decision, you work with who you believe.
Well, here's one for you. There was a pope that had an experience with an ET.
Yeah. Never heard of that, but that's interesting.
Oh yeah, check it. Google Pope interface with extraterrestrial at the Vatican, witnessed by a bunch of people. So the story gets out there, and the people aren't the Pope saying it. The people are like the Popettes, like a couple down the food chain from the Pope. But it was reported. So how many people believe it though? Even though you can go back to the guy who actually said, yeah, I saw the thing talking to the Pope, and this is what they talked about. Or you talk to a guy like Bob Lazar. Bob Lazar is about as connected as you can be without, he worked on off-planet spacecraft. Sure. And the thing is, he doesn't, you would almost have to get somebody to show it to you and then say, well, we'll take it for a ride. Look how many people believe that the moon landing didn't happen, or that the planet, the Earth is flat, or that tomorrow Trump is going to be president, the 19th president of the U.S. There are people out there who will never believe what's standing in front of them to start with. One of the biggest issues I had, and the first paranormal team I was on came under TAPS, the Atlantic Paranormal Society or whatever, with their rules. Didn't like him. I'm a policeman a long time. I know how to handle evidence. I would get a recording. I would ask a question, and I get this muffled bloop in the background. And I went, okay, fine. So I'd slow the thing down, and then I would get a full-on sentence answer to the or to the actual question I asked. I'd play it for the guy. He says, "Oh, you can't do that because you've modified the evidence." I said, "Yes, but I modified the evidence by slowing it down 18% using this piece of hardware or software." Well, yeah, but you modified it. I said, "No, I didn't modify it. I slowed it down."
I still have the original file.
Like, I am an investigator. I can articulate what has happened. And it comes down to when you're in court and you're giving evidence on something, it's articulation of how the chain of evidence happened and how you held it and how you opened a book. Okay, I got this book, and inside of it, there was a map. Well, how did you know? Well, when I opened it up, oh, you opened up the book? I was like, dude. So that was, but you weren't allowed to do that on his paranormal team. So it was just, it didn't last very long.
Well, that's kind of why the reporting system is important for Tesla, because we measure everyone on an individual basis, and we can't prove it 100% on an individual basis. But as we get more of the same groups and categories, we can articulate that how is it plausible, or how is it possible that so many people are experiencing the same phenomenon in different parts of the world at the same time. So that's how, I think that's the only way we could get close to proving it, is having more almost evidence.
Yeah.
Together. So okay. Well,
here's a question for you. Do we really have to prove ghosts exist?
Well, No, well, it depends on who we're working for. So on a whole, for the world, do we have to? No, no one's asking us to do it. It's a curiosity thing. But we do get some people that experience the phenomenon and they want help. They want it gone. And for me and the Tessa team to refer them to a trauma treatment of some sort, it's important that I understand all the variables of the phenomenon so that way we can connect them to the right resource. So I need to have as much available evidence as possible so that way I can feel the best that I can with putting them in the right hands based on the evidence that's presented to me. Because, you know, we're supporting the experiencers. So it depends on who you're working for. The whole world, no. The individual, it might matter to that individual because we don't know how much that event has affected them because there's trauma associated to it. There's anxiety, there's stress.
Yeah, and that was a other big no-no for the paranormal group that I was involved in. Again, with the guy having a photograph of a guy pushing a hand truck out of an office through the camera, and the client in the other room. And it was like, I wanted to say, come over and look at this. And the guy who ran the team, and another person looked at me and said, no, we don't show the client this stuff. What? Oh, no. And we found out later that they would just keep coming back to the same place with different people. They turn it into their own little paranormal tour of other paranormal investigators, never giving the client any evidence. And they had pictures of women standing up halfway through walls and this guy with the thing and hand truck, and I've got audio and they've got audio, but no, client can't have it. Well, why are you there? Why are you there? There's a same thing with the residential school here, incredibly active, lots of evidence. No, I'm not going to do it. Or are you going to help to cross any of the children that are in here? Well, no. Like, do you have a psychic that actually works with the team? No, I don't do that. It's funny. Like nowadays, if you don't have a legit psychic, and I don't mean like somebody like me, because I'm not, we talk about the height of antennas and what you pick up. Yeah, mine's not that high. I know people who have got rig high ones, and you walk into a hotel and room 123 is the most haunted room in the whole place. You don't have to go to, 122 rooms to check them out before you get to 123. They walk in there and go 123. Oh, and in the laundry room.
Yeah.
That's it. It saves horsing around in the entire building. Take a psychic. I interviewed a lady who runs the Tucson, Arizona paranormal group. And I said, well, do you take a psychic? No, I don't do that. Okay, really? Because, it's a really good way. No, don't take a psychic. And I said, well, yeah, you go into a building, it's got 20 rooms, you know exactly what room to go into, you don't have to bounce around. She goes, oh, no, I do that. And I said, you do what? Well, I know what room when I walk in. So you don't take a psychic. You are a psychic. It's like, oh, no, I don't call myself. I was like, yeah, okay, fine.
It's when you're taking a psychic, though. So, like, we're over the hour. We got to do we totally missed the comments, and we got to head over to Patreon. But this is good conversation. So I'm going to quickly just shout out to everyone commenting on YouTube. If you're not on YouTube, I'm sorry, we're not going to shout you out, and we're not going to read your questions. But hello, Chantel. Hello, Tessa, that's me. Hello, Mother Scorpion. Hello, Mother Scorpion. Hello, Lisa. Hello. I think that's it. Mother Skia and MS Mom. I think I saw you in there. MS Ma. Hello. That's Angela. Hello, Angela. So any questions? Let me just scan through here. Do you see any questions there on the comments there in the YouTube section? Let's see.
Comments. Sorry. Oh, look at that. There's a whole bunch of them. I had private chat lit up, so I didn't see the comment part.
Yeah, everyone's just chit-chatting. So we got to head over to Patreon, guys. I'm really sorry that conversation head over here. But say hello to everybody. Head over to Patreon in a second. Let me see. There's got to be a question. You guys are just chit-chatting with each other. Look at that. That's good. So, what do you want to talk about in Patreon? We will. I can tell you a scenario where I had done an investigation, and I've located a few rooms based on the evidence of where the suspected paranormal activity had occurred, and my wife, who is empathic, totally like showed me up because she did exactly what you explained. But like for me, like we'll talk about it in the Patreon special, I guess. So we'll go over there. So head over to Patreon. Before we go, James, please tell everybody where they can find you.
Just behind the couch. No, I'm at the Oracles with JamesTyson.com. I am anywhere a podcast can be heard. The Oracles with James Tyson, or the Oracles. YouTube. I now do video interviews with people, and all the audios are still out there floating around, going back many years. The Instagram, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn, the Oracles with James Tyson, and just Google that and it'll bring you up all over the place. Go if you want to subscribe to my YouTube channel. Again, it's the Oracles with James Tyson over there, and check out the bits and pieces that I have there.
Cool. Well, we'll see you there. Thanks for watching. Keep your eyes in the sky, everybody. Heat the world. Peace.
Tonight's episode was brought to you by the Paranormal Hangar, the official merchandising store of the Experiencer Support Association. Head over to theparanormalhangar.com and browse our inventory. We have branded mugs, mouse pads, tote bags, and so much more. All proceeds go back into the organization, and if you are a Patreon member, you will get a discount code for all of your purchases. Remember, this conversation isn't over, just the free version. We will dive even deeper on patreon.com/the Experiencer Support Association. Thanks for listening. Keep your eyes in the sky and say it with me. Heed the world. Good night, everybody.
Hi there, this is Dave Scott from Spaced Out Radio, where together, my friends, we own the night. On our website, spacedoutradio.com, we have a place called the SOR Sightlines Report. All of our investigations and people who inquire are turned over to TESSA, the Experiencer Support Association. Ryan Stacy and his crew, what I like about them, they're independent. They're not working for anybody, and they want answers. We want answers for our listeners and people who inquire as well about their experiences. It's a great tandem, and we love being teamed up with TESSA. If you haven't heard of us before, that's okay. We'd love to earn your listening ears. Join us 9:06 Pacific Time, 12:06 a.m. Eastern for 3 hours of live entertainment, 7 days a week.
We are the ones in the dark. We are the first on the scene. We are the last to leave. We will counsel you